way up here.
Long way away. The dump truck coming in.
Came from a little mine called Fletcher's Gully. It was last operational in the 1930s, and after the 1930s it was just left derelict in the bush. And one of the old timers that was working the lease ended up buying the lease, and he hung on to it for a while, and then the gold prices dropped out of sight, so he didn't think it was worth him hanging on to it any longer. So he sold it to another chap from Pine Creek here. The fellow from Pine Creek drilled the lease and tested it in the 50s and found it to be no good. So he pulled all this old equipment out of there and brought it into town, and he was going to restore it. But he never got around to restoring it, and it ended up sitting in a junk pile upstream from here for about 15 years. And 15 or 20 years. And then eventually the chap who owned that lease, he decided he was never going to restore it, so he gave it to me. I did some work for him and he gave it to me. And I painstakingly restored the engine and the crusher, the jaw crusher, that's the little gray machine, and the stamp battery. And using old photographs, I built the sheds according to the way they were originally built on the mine at Fletcher's Gully. So what you see here is set up fairly well the way it was in the early years when it was operational. The battery, that machine in the front there, is, I'm not sure where it's made because there is no name on it. We think it might be an Australian casting actually, but it's a very rare type of stamp battery, that little stamp battery, and don't know of any others that are like it. But it's quite a good little machine. 1889 vintage, that machine. This one here is 1878 vintage, the gray jaw crusher, and it's an English Parks jaw crusher. This one is another English machine. It's Fraser Chalmers, 1885 vintage. What happened in the territory, a lot of British equipment came here because about 1885 you had a British con man in the territory, and his name was Horatio Bottomley, and he conned ever so many of his own people, this bloke, because what he did, he floated dozens of companies, territory gold mining companies, on the British Stock Exchange, and he ripped off a lot of British people, and consequently a lot of British investors bought equipment and sent over here to the top of Australia to set up on a lot of these mines. And that's how come this is British equipment. The old truck there is a 1942 model GMC. What we do, come around here. Want to roll it. So it can roll back out there to the truck, you see? So that we can load it. So it gets loaded up out there at the truck. And then we roll it in. It comes in with the rock in it, see? So it just rolls out there and then comes in with the rock in it. And see what we do is just back that old truck up. Just have a look at this old truck while we're around this site. And look at this old thing. This is part of Pine Creek's history, this old thing. It's been here. Almost every old timer in Pine Creek has driven this truck at one time or another. It's carted. After the war, the publican bought it. He used to carry grog with, booze. And after that, it was sold to a guy who was a timber cutter here, and he used to carry timber. Then it was used to cart ore. Then it was used to cart buffalo. Then it was used to cart. Oh, it's just carted everything. This truck. It's quite an old truck. This thing.
Very good.
You wouldn't think it'd go to look at it, would you?
No.
Okay, come around here.
No tread on the tyres. No tread on the tyres.
Well, it probably wore that off a few years ago. Okay, well, I'll fire this one up for you, so you can see how it works. What happens, the ore that's on the back of the truck, we bring it from our lease. Now, we've got an alluvial lease, and that's the oversize from the alluvial lease. And what we do is go over it with a detector, and if it shows up to have any gold in it, well, then we bring the rest of the oversize here and crush it. Okay. Goes in that size, goes in there, comes out here. Presses it down to that size. Then it goes down here, down this slot, and goes under the stamp and gets stamped until it's fine enough to come through the screen. Most of the gold gets caught in the box. Some of it gets caught on that table in that matting. That's what happens. All these old sheds had lots of overhead gear in them like that. So you can put 2 or 3 machines off the Pretty nice. Him with the movie camera, then swing through the whistle. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, good.
Very good.
Belt broke. If that small belt broke, this machine would go faster and faster and faster until it jumped off the blocks. It would pick up speed very fast. You watch, you listen what happens when I grab the governor. You listen to the machine.
Yep.
You watch the balls, they'll go back together. See? Closer together now.
As low as he goes now.
Yeah, yeah.
see this old machine not working very hard. It's easy for this machine to run that.
Oh, yes,
No
oh,
problem.
yes, oh, yes. Oh, yes, it was not hard work for it.
Fairly quiet, the old steam machine, wasn't it? Hey.
Beautiful, yes.
Very good.
So how long did it take you to restore it all?
About 600 man hours just on the engine.
Yes.
Just on the engine.
Ooh.
When I got it, this has got a little bit of a leak in it, see? So I poked my pen in there. Got this equipment, it was all in about the condition of what's in the long grass over there. And so all the brass was missing. Here, bits and pieces were there, but a lot of the bearings were missing. All these oilers were gone. The governor was gone, except for the balls. This was rusted, finished. This was bent over, you know. I mean, it just, it took, to restore it didn't take all that long, but to get the parts to restore it took a long time because they had to make it. You can't go in and buy parts for 1880 vintage steam engines. Yeah.
So you made the parts, or you got them
we
made?
made up some. Then also I have good contacts with a lot of other steam buffs, and we swap parts as well. You know, but for instance, these are modern oilers,
Yes.
but you wouldn't know. This is an original. If I didn't point it out, you wouldn't realize
No,
that.
I wouldn't know.
See, this is real brass, and that's only brass plated. They still make those in China. So you see, they still use steam gear in China. So they still make those oilers. This oiler here was here. This is rather interesting. Have a look. You see this thing? The oil drips from here. When you lift this up, the oil drips down through the tube here and lands on the inside of this disc. And then the centrifugal force throws the oil to the outside of the disc. And so the force, the centrifugal force, feeds the oil up the little tube and over into the big end. So it's a pump, but it has no wearing parts. Yeah. And things like this, see this bearing. This half we made, this half was original. You wouldn't know the difference, except the machinist did an excellent job, and then we spent a bit of time rubbing some Brasso on different parts and cleaning them up and making them look new. And this thing was missing. That's another part we made. The piston, just on the big end here, it was very rusted and pitted. And it was too big to put into a crankshaft grinding machine. No one had one big enough to take it. So I had to spend about a fortnight with emery cloth and micrometer to get it round. And
Reasonably
good.
rounded,
Yeah.
reasonably through.
Yeah, a lot of work. Yeah. The water's helping to open up the material in the dish. So it's a circular motion like this with lots of action, and if you're doing it properly, you should hear the sound. You hear it scratching?
Yes. But you're
And-
losing half of it.
Yeah,
over
that's all right, because you see, the gold is already sunk. So I'm trying to lose some of it over the edge, you see? You have to lose it over the edge like that, so that the rubbish goes out, because the rubbish is coming to the top. The gold is sinking all
to
the
the bottom.
time.
It's because it's
So-
the heaviest of the metals.
So it's sinking and going down here to the low corner, and the light material is coming up to the top and going out over the edge. Now I'm doing this one very quickly just to show you. You won't go as fast as this. Then you go like this, you see? It's just like the ocean wave on the beach. You see what happens? It just takes the top off. And then concentrate it, get the gold to sink. At this stage you can rake the rocks back, have a look at them, get rid of them. Shake it down, shoot a bit more off the top. Shake it down again. The gold is concentrating at the low point all the time, down here. So that's where you wish to keep it. And then get rid of a bit more of the light material, you see. The gold is heavy, so the gold will sink. When you get to this stage, you've gone far enough, You make a circle like this with the water, and the water will wash the material away, and the gold is heavy, so the gold will stay at the back. You see, here's the gold here. Now, it's not big lumps, because if it was big lumps, believe me, you wouldn't be here. I would be. But it's a good color, a good example of what you get. Now, this is very good dirt. This dirt, you see?
Oh, yes.
A little color.
Yeah.
Now, probably you'll have more in your dish, because if you go slower, you won't lose so much. But I just went quickly to show you. Then you dry your finger, and just go like this with a dry finger. It'll pick up on your finger. And here we have some little bottles for you. And if you fill the little bottle up to the top with water, and when your finger touches the water, give it a little shake, and you got it. If you had the bottle full, you would have about 2.5 ounces. So that's worth quite a bit. It's 460 an ounce now. So what you're getting is only infinitesimal amount, maybe worth $1. But you can see the principle.
Yeah.
Okay, now we'll just clean it up for you. Now you see this small.
Can I get it up
Yeah,
close?
I don't know whether you can. You might, but I don't think it'll show up.
Oh, yes. Do you want to look through there?
Yeah, I've seen it before. Maybe a little wee skerricks, but not much. Little wee skerricks. You see?
Yeah. Still got some more.
Enough for one more stem.
Now, go like that. Now, we'll get you a little bottle.